Hello, it's Kim Benjamin here. I'm the founder and the managing attorney at the BWI and Criminal Law Center here in Missouri. We're at the Benjamin Law Firm in Belton and Kansas City. This video is going to be for those people who want to make sure they know what a BWI is and how not to get one. Boating while intoxicated. Let's start with what is boating while intoxicated. Is it the same as a DWI or driving while intoxicated? Yes and no. It's very similar. Obviously, you're not driving a car on the roads, you're driving a boat on water in Missouri, but being intoxicated while driving that boat is the exact same definition as it is for driving the car. So it's very similar in those respects. You can expect that you would have to come in contact with law enforcement on the water, which in Missouri, it's called the Missouri State Water Patrol. And if you come into contact with them, you might have to do a portable breath test. You might have to do field sobriety tests or be asked to do them. You don't have to do them. You might be arrested and taken to the station and have to provide a legitimate breath test or blood test, just like a DWI. Now, you might wonder, how do I do field sobriety tests on a boat? And they will they will ask you to. They often will use the preliminary or portable breath test there with them to try to make a case against you. You might wonder, is it just alcohol? No, the answer is no. It is alcohol or drugs or medication that can get you in trouble, for BWI, just like a DWI can get you a charge for being intoxicated, because it doesn't matter if it's alcohol or drugs or medication. It can be all of those things together as well. So be aware of those things. The first thing you also should know is, what is a boat in Missouri? In Missouri, we define a boat as a vessel, which is any craft or boat that is propelled by a motor or by a machine on the water in Missouri. It can also be a sail-alone boat that is, you're driving it, it's moving, but it's using the power of the wind and sailing. So you can still get a BWI in a sailboat. Most commonly, we see people getting BWIs on our lakes, but it can also be rivers. It used to be, in the old day, you could get them on the river when you were in a kayak or a canoe, because they used to define a boat as any vessel with an oar or a paddle. So thankfully, that's no longer the case. But anytime you're on the water driving a motor-propelled device, essentially any sort of craft. So be very cautious about that. And I want you also to understand this. You have to come in contact with law enforcement. Just like when you're driving, they have to have probable cause to pull you over. And they will pull you over. They have lights and sirens, and obviously they'll be waving their hands, and they will pull you over, and you'll be forced to stop for them. And they will either most likely board your vessel, but sometimes you have to board their vessel. It just depends on how many people there are, what's happening. If there's a lot of people, you be careful that they might want to pat people down. Most people are wearing suits. It's very obvious no one's carrying a gun, but they're going to protect themselves. So there's going to be some conversation for safety reasons about, do you have weapons on the vehicle and that kind of thing, or on the vessel, excuse me. So just be aware, it's very similar to a DWI as far as what they're going to be doing or what they're going to try to be doing on getting you for boating while intoxicated. But how they come into contact with you is very different, because obviously, you know, when you're driving a boat, you don't have lines. You don't have lines that you can cross, but you can be seen driving recklessly. You can be seen violating boating rules, whether it be unsafe crossing a lake, for example. Just recently, July 4th weekend, I was at the Lake of the Ozarks, and a man was pulling a boat with children on a tube, and he crossed right in front of us as we're flying down the lake at about 40 miles per hour in a speedboat, going down the channel the way we're supposed to be going, paying attention, and he just crosses right in front of us and almost causes us to hit the children. in the tube. It was very scary. That kind of behavior can get you pulled over. Equipment violations can get you pulled over. There are rules about the lights, rules about having life jackets on board. If they see a lot of people and they don't see any life jackets, or they see way too many people on a boat, which sometimes at the Lake of the Ozarks, you'll see a boat that's way overcrowded. Some pontoons that I've seen almost sinking because they're so overcrowded. But you have to have, a flag if you have people in the water. You have to have the horn, and different working equipment issues can get you in trouble too, not just how you're driving the boat. So those things, what we recommend is that everybody should know the boating rules. Read the books, read the regulations, go online, take a boating class, be safe. Know what the rules are, because if they catch you violating a rule, even a minor equipment violation, like one of your front end lights are out, or you're using your headlights, we see pontoon boats do this all the time, put on their headlights while driving the boat in the water, as opposed to when they're supposed to near the dock to help them dock. So just pay attention to rules, know the rules, and make sure your equipment's all in order. One thing people will often ask us is, what about if I'm seen drinking? Like if I'm seen driving down the road with a beer in my hand and I do this and the police officer sees me, he's going to pull me over, because we have open container laws in Missouri where drivers are not allowed to have an open container in their vehicle. A passenger can, but not the driver. Well, boating, there's no such thing as open container law while boating. Obviously, you have coolers of alcohol, everybody's drinking. You, the driver of the boat, can actually be seen drinking and not get into trouble. However, you're causing, when you're drinking while driving a boat and Water Patrol can see you, it may cause them to pay more attention to you. Maybe they'll get behind you. Maybe they'll look for an equipment violation so that they can pull you over. Just be careful. Don't be, I recommend being cautious. If you are passing Water Patrol, don't start drinking right in front of them. Just do your job and pay attention to the water and be safe. And don't drink right in front of them. An interesting side note here is that there is a law in Missouri that I've never seen prosecuted, but I wanted to throw this in here. It is a crime in Missouri to not just be the driver of the boat intoxicated, but to be on water skis or a surfboard while surfing those wakes, or tubing or whatever. You can get in trouble if you are somehow creating a reckless environment on the water. So don't be stupid as even a passenger of a water ski or surfboard, because you will cause law enforcement to come into contact with your boat. And maybe they won't enforce that law, but they'll certainly go after the driver who was driving perfectly normal and careful, but you brought attention to the boat. And they could prosecute you, but they'll certainly be paying attention to the driver of the boat on whether they are intoxicated or not. Next, I wanted to talk to you about some collateral consequences of a BWI. Some people historically have decided that BWIs aren't a big deal and they just pay the fine. They don't even hire a lawyer and try to beat it. There are some reasons not to be so quick and to hire a law firm who knows how to beat a DWI. First of all, for those of you who like to travel the world, you are creating problems for yourself. Immigration issues of trying to travel abroad. In particular, we see Canada as a big issue. If you paid a fine or pled guilty to a BWI, you are going to create problems for yourself. Canada does not want you, or at least they don't want to make it easy for you to enter their country. And they're not the only one. So before you just plead guilty or pay a fine on a BWI, talk to a lawyer, try to beat the case before you were just going to plead guilty and take a conviction or pay a fine. It's worth the future cost and headache you're going to find, because we've had people try to drive into Canada, didn't know this was an issue with a DWI or a BWI, and they're told to go home. Or those who do know it's going to be an issue have to hire an immigration lawyer in Canada to do all the paperwork and get special permissions so that they're allowed into that country. And it's expensive. So be smart, be careful, and don't just plead guilty to a DWI or just don't pay the fine. And the reason a lot of people will, on a BWI, just pay the fine and not even hire a lawyer is because oftentimes the cops will tell you, if you pay this, this doesn't affect your driver's license. Well, first of all, they're illegally giving you legal advice, which is a problem because there are a lot of collateral consequences they're not telling you about. Second, that's true. Your driver's license is not affected by your BWI. If you get a DWI, you can lose your driver's license on a DWI, but not a BWI. The problem is all these other collateral consequences. So be careful, talk to a lawyer, and try to beat this case. I've heard stories of car insurance agents in preparation for the underwriters and life insurance agents in preparation for the underwriters ask people, do you have any DWIs or BWIs? Because it's going to affect their decision-making on whether they give you life insurance, for example. That's a collateral consequence that means something to a lot of people. Another thing, a big one, we see here in Missouri is, especially with the Lake of the Ozarks or the lakes or the waterways that are on near our other states surrounding us, when you are from out of state and you get a Missouri BWI and then say you go home to your home state, there are 13 states in this country right now who will enhance you to a higher level DWI. If you were caught driving while intoxicated, you could cause yourself to get more punishment, even go into a felony range, much more serious on your first DWI in your whole life. But because you have a prior BWI, they're going to use it to enhance you to a higher level. So there is another reason to not just pay the fine on a BWI and act like it's no big deal, because it is a big deal. It's a crime. It's a conviction. It's on your driving or not on your driving record. It's on your criminal record as a conviction, and it can affect you in other states. So even if you're a Missouri resident and you may someday travel or move out of our state, this could haunt you for a long time. So don't just take it lightly and pay the fine. And Missouri actually could change the law and make it to where not only could they make it where a BWI does affect your driver's license, but the legislature could change it to where the BWI is enhanceable in other states as well, or other states BWIs are enhanceable here. So it's not yet more serious in Missouri, but there are, if you have multiple BWIs in Missouri, I guess I should explain this better. I don't want you to think that a BWI can't affect you even if you're a Missouri resident, because if you get a DWI in Missouri, while they can't use the BWI to enhance your DWI to a higher level, you can get multiple BWIs in Missouri and get chronic offender, aggravated offender, and there's much more serious consequences and punishment for someone with multiple BWIs. So don't just assume I could pay 14 BWIs and it's no big deal. The other thing you should know is you could be a first-time offender on a BWI. First-time offender and still get a felony. And this is how. You seriously injured someone. We have people in Missouri who are charged with felony assault for BWIs for boating while intoxicated because someone got hurt. And it's so much easier to get hurt on a boat based on your driving because of how it's just different than driving a car, as everyone who drives a boat knows. The other thing is you can get charged with murder if there's a death in your case. And we have seen, if you Google it, you will see pictures of boats that just flew into the air and landed on land or on a dock. And there are horrific stories. Lake of the Ozarks here in Missouri has more deaths, allegedly. I don't know if this is still current information, but it used to be that the Lake of the Ozarks had the highest death rate for boating accidents. So be careful. Be so careful, and just know that you could be putting yourself, and not just your family, friends, and everyone, at risk of injury or death, but yourself at risk of a long prison sentence. The last two things, let's see here. I wanted to also tell you the last thing is that if you have a BWI already on your record, you can expunge it. You may not qualify for an expungement if you have a bad record, but let us review your record to see if you qualify for an expungement, because boating while intoxicated, if you have one prior, you can have that expunged as well. Just like we have a law in Missouri that allows someone with one DWI in their life to have it expunged, you can have such a BWI expunged as well. So take advantage of an expungement because it takes you back as if that BWI never occurred. And that's very important for a lot of people who want to clear up their record and make sure that if they do get in trouble again, that it's as if the other one never happened. That is everything I wanted to tell you about BWIs here in Missouri. Just don't get a boating while intoxicated charge. Take caution, know the rules, don't drink and drive a boat, and certainly be careful, because there are a lot of people who drink for, you're out in the sun, it's hot, you're sweating, you want a cold drink, and you drink a beer and you don't realize you're becoming intoxicated, because when you're in the sun, you don't feel the intoxication like you do in other circumstances. So be very careful. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at the Missouri DWI and Criminal Law Center at the Benjamin Law Firm. Our website, if you want to book an appointment or call us, is www.dwicriminallawcenter.com. dwicriminallawcenter.com. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will be putting out more content, more free information to help you understand the laws of Missouri. Thank you.